Hey everybody, Jeff Stone here with another episode of MagicReview.com. Today we're looking at the 3-disc set by Karl Hein and John George. There they are. Cube Effects. This could be the most comprehensive Cube Magic DVD set to date. For $80, $79.95, you get 3 DVDs. One of them is actually a product that John George helped produce a while back called You Can Solve the Cube, and it features Tyson Mao, who's a world champion speed cuber. At one time held some records, I think, that have been broken since, but he's still one of the top guys in the world. The other 2 DVDs are Karl Hein and John George teaching a whole bunch of stuff. So let's get into that. First, it comes with just the DVDs. It does not come with a Rubik's Cube or a speed cube. None of these products that I've been reviewing, the cube products, come with Rubik's Cubes. I don't know if you don't know this, but Rubik brand Rubik's Cubes, ironically, are the worst. They're the worst quality cube there is. If you're going to get a Rubik's Cube, get one of the ones from China or one of the, I don't know if they're knockoffs or if they're rip-offs or not, but they're designed differently and they're much better, and they're often referred to as speed cubes. And in fact, in the description of this particular review, I have a link off to a particular speed cube that I highly recommend, and it's only $4. That's the cheapest speed cube you're going to find, especially of that quality. Most speed cubes are a lot more expensive. And to do Karl Hein's basic effect, you're going to need 3 speed cubes. All 3 are ungimmicked, but you will need 3 of them. And so that's his basic routine. It starts off where a spectator gets the cube, they mix it up, you put it in a bag, and then magically it solves itself in the bag. And remember, it's when the spectator mixed up. Then you introduce another cube that's solved, and you mix it up, and you're talking for a couple of seconds, and then after just a few seconds, you show that you've mixed the cube up to be exactly matching the spectator's cube that they mixed up. Incidentally, side note, totally unrelated to anything, years and years and years ago, my son and I were talking. He was pretty young back then. He's almost 18 now, but we were talking about different magic tricks, and he said, oh, it'd be cool if somebody mixed up a cube and then you could magically mix it up to be like their cube. So I actually was working on a legitimate method to do that, like you really do it, not a trick. And I have solved the cube that way before, solving it to match a randomly scrambled pattern. What a pain in the butt that is, man. It's a nightmare. Anyway, so that's trick number 2. Trick number 3 is they think of a color, and then you take their scrambled cube, and you can show, like, let's say, I'm going to mix this one up real quick. Let's say they say that their thought of color is orange. So it's in their head, and you just ask them, okay, do you see orange do you see your thought of color on most of the sides? And you show it around. They can clearly see their color is on more than one particular side. And then you set the cube on their hand and cover it, and then snap your fingers or whatever, and then suddenly the orange, I didn't do it here, but suddenly the orange side would be completely solved. And against the thought of color, and they teach you different ways to get that information. Everything from simple, typical mentalism stuff that you're probably familiar with, up through like gimmicked cubes. And he doesn't teach you how to do the gimmick cube, but he tells you where you can get them. There's a lot of cool little gimmicked electronic ideas that he sends you to a resource for. But you don't need any of that to do it. You just need 3 regular cubes, and you can do that routine I just said. Then there's John George's variation of it, which uses the Enchanted Cube that's put out by Fuller Duelers by Daryl, and Daryl, it's not Martinez anymore. I think it's a different name. He changed it. I can't remember it. Sorry, Daryl. We'll just go with Daryl, because that's kind of what he went by for so long anyway. Just Daryl. Daryl's website has has the Enchanted Cube on there. He bought the rights to it. It was probably the very first Rubik's Cube effect ever. So you buy a couple of those. They're not cheap. But you buy those and you can do a further addition to Karl Hein's effect that John George does. And he has a whole routine that he does. It's based on Karl Hein's, but it is slightly different. So that's in the bonus material. What you're really paying for is Karl Hein's routine, and then all the bonus ideas. And there is a buttload of them. Everything from doing, faux blindfolded solves to one-handed, like you have a cube in your hand and you shake it and it's solved, or you have two cubes and you cross them over, shake, and bam, they're both solved. You have cubes where you're holding them out, with your arms stretched, and you spin around, and by the time you turn back around, they're both solved. Behind the back, over the shoulder solve, actual where you put your hands behind your back and solve it. And so tons and tons and tons of different things like that. Also, speaking of blind and behind the back, on this bonus DVD that you get that teaches you the cube, they do teach the legitimate blindfold method. That is a real thing. There are really people who can really solve the cube blindfolded. It's a completely different technique than just a traditional solve. And so on that DVD, you learn the basic method, you learn an advanced method, the speed method, and then the blind method. And on the blind method, they teach it in pretty good depth and the concept of it. But there's always the key part of once you master the technique, you still have to learn how to memorize the cube. And he doesn't teach that at all. In fact, he just says, don't bother, me teaching you how to memorize it would only be me teaching you how I do it. You need to learn how to use the blind method while looking first, because that is tricky. Learning that method is tricky. But once you get that method down, which I was familiar with before watching that video, I've played around with it a little bit. That'll take some serious time to just be able to master that method. Forget about being blindfolded. So other than the fact that they don't teach you the memory stuff on that DVD is very complete, and it's like the ultimate resource for all things solving or cube solving. So back to the two discs with Karl Hein and John George. There are effects on there where you have a scrambled cube, you put it on the spectator's hand, you borrow their phone, you take a picture of their face and the front of the cube, and then you do a little magic thing, whatever, and then they look on their phone and the picture is now of a solved cube, or their thought of color, solved right there. There's stuff where you can have a whole bunch of photos on your phone or your iPad or something, and you have them randomly scroll through photos that are clearly, 50 to 100 different pictures of different cube positions. They scroll through, and then they stop on any photo you want, and then while the whole time you're spinning the cube, and the moment they stop, you stop, and your cube matches the photo they stopped at. Now, they don't give you the pictures or anything, so you're going to have to take your own pictures and put them on your iPad yourself or whatever. There's some ideas on here that they talk about where if you're into the effects where your t-shirt changes, like you're wearing a jacket and you're wearing a red shirt, you spin around, now it's blue or whatever. It has some really cool ideas that you could do if you had two different Rubik's Cube shirts, one with a picture of a solved cube, one with a scrambled cube. Tons of different ideas there. Several different techniques on how to get that thought of color from the spectator. On and on and on and on. There's a nice discussion between John George and Karl Hein. There's a thorough section about types of cubes and a little bit of Rubik's Cube history and a lot of Magic and Rubik's Cube history together. The crediting's excellent. They cover, just about everything. Like I said, this is a full, thorough, complete resource on all things cube magic. And so if you're into cube magic whatsoever, especially if you've already got your own cubes, bam, this is what you need. It's just full of great stuff. 4.5 stars, stone status of gem. And to be honest, the only reason I didn't give it 5 stars, there was one minor thing that, like a little glitch in the production. That wasn't a big deal. But there was no play all button. No play all button. That drives me crazy, guys. That just drives me crazy. So that did have a little bit of a hit. Everything else is solid. The ad copy is absolutely, totally accurate. The methods are simple. It just takes some practice. And it's the same method for everything, basically. That's the cool part. You learn the method and you can do a million tricks with it. So, on and on and on. I'll shut up now. 4.5 stars. Stone status of gem. Let's take a look at the random iTunes song of the moment today, which is... Come on. Somebody That I Used to Know. The original Gotye, or I don't know if it's original, but Gotye and Kimbra. There's a cool version by Walk Off the Earth that I was thinking of. That's why I said original, meaning the Gotye version. But I could be mistaken, but I think he covered that too. But what do I know? Nothing. Anywho, tune in next time where we do the third in our cube week. I don't know. The Cube Plus by Takamis Usuyu or something like that. And then remember, after I do this video, I will be doing a fourth video which compares this and this and this, comparing all three of these together to give you just an overview and comparison of each of the three. So, that's it for today, folks. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time when we check out the Cube Plus. Peace out.